Um, Welcome, everybody. We're so happy you're here with us today to talk about the DATALIS project, which employed the innovation funnel design thinking methodology under the auspices of the Leading project. And Leading is a 5-year project that's been IMLS funded, focused on providing data science education for early career professionals in the library and information science field. My name is Erik Mitchel. I'm the university librarian at UC San Diego, and I've had the pleasure of being a co-PI on this project for several years. I'm here today with you with my fellow co-PIs on the Leading project, as well as our collaborator, Kevin Popovic, who has joined with us over the last several months to think about innovating the future of professional education as we wrap up Leading. One of our amazing colleagues who's not with us here today is Crystal Goldman, and Crystal's been instrumental on this project for the last several years. She led the formation of the community of practice within Leading and was our key collaborator as we built out this last research project. Our panelists with us today include Jane Greenberg at Drexel University. Jane is the PI on this project and has been the initiator of Leading since its inception over 5 years ago. John Wheeler from the University of New Mexico is a co-PI on this project, and Rachel Frick at OCLC is a third co-PI or fourth co-PI. So welcome, Jane, John, and Rachel. So throughout Leading, our 4 partner institutions, led by the Metadata Research Center with Jane at Drexel University, have worked together to make Leading possible. We were joined by dozens of institutions who hosted Leading fellows and who contributed mentors to this incredible project. And we just can't say thank you enough to every institution and every individual who participated. Through our work, we trained over 81 fellows in data science research methodologies, and we've seen just incredible accomplishments come out of their work. And if you'd like to learn more, please check out the Leading project website, which we'll share in the comments below. So the work we're here talking about today, DATALIS, grew out of the work that we accomplished through Leading, focused on data science education, and we just sought to ask a broader question around how do we need to think about innovating professional education within libraries of information science to make things like Leading successful in the future. And we just culminated our work through an activity or an event called Present, where we shared out the results of our design thinking workshop that we held. To set us up for all of that work, or to set us up for all that research and presentation, we came up with a starting problem statement. How might we help libraries collaborate to innovate professional education that impacts recruitment, growth, and retention? And we'll describe this in a little bit of detail today through a series of workshops. We iterated on that problem statement to look more deeply into this. And so now I'd like to hand this over to my collaborator, Kevin Popovic, to talk a little bit more about the innovation funnel. Kevin?
Yeah, thank you, Erik. The innovation funnel was really designed to facilitate collaboration with groups of people, right? Oftentimes, when we get a problem, people go right to coming up with ideas. And statistically speaking, those ideas are not always the best ideas that we could generate. So we've learned through tracking productivity and efficacy and ideation that you need to have more than just a process and just a single event. So the innovation funnel really builds on that knowledge, learning, and experience. It begins with a learn event, a convening, if you will, where people are invited in. Those people are usually stakeholders within the problem and have some role within that problem, to an event where we can introduce the problem, introduce the program, demonstrate what we know already, and conduct some exercises where we can learn more from those participants. From that learn stage, we move then into workshops. Based on what we learned and the people that we've gathered, we move into a series of workshops where teams can collaborate at a very root level to start thinking about the problem we presented and start iterating on that problem from their perspective to generate additional problem statements that provide additional perspectives. The learning from the work was turned into data that helped us make decisions on how we now focus our work. And that's the intent of the design of the graphic. We move from work into a much more focused, developed phase where teams are built with specific experience and expertise and knowledge around the ideas that seem to have the greatest traction and the potential for impact. Those teams were coached through a one-day exercise to generate prototypes that represent potential solutions for each of those problem statements. As Erik referenced, our present event enabled teams to present those ideas for feedback and evaluation. All of that data has been gone through and mined for learning, and it will be part of our final report. So that model that we're seeing here really facilitates the creativity and innovation around problem solving. Because just saying, hey, let's just use design thinking, or just, hey, let's do a workshop is not enough to move the needle on the problems we're trying to solve. Erik, if you go to the next slide, please, we'll talk about the model that we use for design thinking. Now, we did use design thinking compared to some other methodologies like human-centered design, even humanity-centered design, right, for a purpose. One reason was that there was a great familiarity with design thinking already, and a number of people have had experience with it. So instead of starting from zero, we start with some forward traction with the participants in our program, and we teach them first how to address the problem statement, because everything starts with the problem. Once we have the problem identified, we move through the traditional steps of design thinking, starting with empathize, where we can develop an emotional connection with the people involved in the problem and learn quite a bit more than we knew before we started. We look at that data and define and look to learn more about points of view and needs and insights, and refocus now on a problem statement, because usually from where you start, once you learn more about it, you learn that it's not exactly the problem that you thought it was. Now with a defined problem statement, we can move into ideation for divergent thinking, which is a number of ideas. We can gather feedback on those ideas and then converge our thinking into a single concept that gets represented in a prototype. In our exercise, our prototypes were tested against more than, I think 100 different LIS professionals who provided data and feedback. And that's what we're sharing with you today. Our next slide, please, Erik. So what we believe that we've learned through all of this work over our months together is how might we collaboratively develop and implement an inclusive framework that leverages technology and community engagement to support continuous professional development, mentorship, and diversity in the LIS profession. And that's what we're going to talk about today.
Hey, thank you so much, Kevin. I'm going to stop sharing here and actually welcome our panelists to the stage. Welcome John, Jane, and Rachel. And I just thought I would kick us off with just a first question to all of you of kind of your reflections on how we wound up in this space of talking about professional education when we spent 5 years really thinking about data science almost exclusively. So Jane, maybe I could pass this over to you.
Sure. I think we could keep talking about data science, but it would be the same old, same old. I think the fact that we talked about the larger problem is a sign of success, you know, the larger issues about workforce development. We had a little pre-chat. If it wasn't data science, it would be AI. It'd be the next big thing. So, talking about the larger issue, and am I answering your question?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think, and like Rachel, something you said several months ago as we were working on this is, well, if you want the same sort of output, use the same sort of process. And that was really inspiring as we thought about different ways of approaching these questions, right? When we launched DATALIS, we were actually thinking about project sustainability. I'm curious how this has resonated with you, or what has stood out for you in this effort.
I guess bringing together the community. I think a lot of times we think about professional education and think about in a top-down model. You know, what's the strategy? Where are the gaps? Where do we need to go? And I felt really, when I think about some of the most valuable assets coming from leading and DATALIS, it's the conversations with the community and how we were able to engage. I'm looking at Kevin, how many different people, at least in one part of this conversation, we were able to honor those contributions as we did the different iterations. So as I said, you know, this was a different approach. I think sometimes people were like, are people going to show up? Or are they going to be engaged? And every time they did, that's one thing in all the work I've done with libraries. Passionate people show up and they have their voices heard, and even not just their voices, their notes, their sticky notes, their effort and their attention. So even on that last workshop day, people showed up and gave their best. And I think we've got a lot of great outcomes because of that high level of participation and commitment.
Oh, I totally agree with you on that point. It was really inspiring to see how people showed up to all these various events. John, I'm curious to hear your thoughts on kind of data science and it relates to this project, or even just observations on the work.
Yeah, thank you. I think it's important that we are talking about the alignment of data science as sort of an individual set of specific skills and how that integrates with the broader community and the broader profession. Something that I think a lot about is resilience, professional and personal resilience, and sustainability. And to me, these things come from communities, they don't come from technologies. So the more we can focus our efforts on building communities that have a shared understanding, a shared vocabulary, the more we can enrich our professional lives through resilience, right? Which in this case happens to be data science skills or AI skills. So, I think it's appropriate and a sign of the maturity of data science that we are having these conversations.
Well, yeah, again, completely agree. And so I think that's actually a great lead into just talking about what this project looked like. So Kevin, I remember when you and I started talking about the innovation funnel model, I had conceived of just like having one workshop. We were going to plan for one workshop. It was going to be great. We're going to invite 20 people. And you said early on, no, wait, buddy, you got this all wrong. We need to get 2, 3, 4, 500 people in the door for our first event and go from there. So could you actually talk with me just a little bit more about like how you set up for Learn? Like, why was that so important? Why was getting so many people in seats early on important?
Thank you, Erik. What I found from Learn is that it really is an action of convening, right? Where we're taking a leadership role in a group of people, as John said about trying to build community, involve everybody, as Rachel referenced. We involve so many different people. Everybody has to be invited to the problem, to the event. Who's involved in the problem? We have learned time after time that we must have all of our perspectives involved, and we need numbers, right? And this is where I think some people fail, because you have to think of that convening event as an event, right? The things that we look at that innovation funnel in order to make it appealing to those people who have choices about what they do with their hour, right? All of us tend to be very taxed from our schedules. So why is somebody going to take an hour out for our event when they have so many other hours asked for things that they already know about and they are already stressing about a little bit, right? So we had to build brand. We had to do marketing for creating awareness, right? To make people aware of the program. And we had to involve some sales in it, which I know sometimes people are a little iffy on the word sales, but we had to sell them on what's in it for them to participate. And that's why we got people to show up. If we just came to it and says, hey, we're having something and we want to try to help everybody in LIS, it may have performed like a lot of other events and programs that professionals have been involved in. But we introduced the program in a way where the feedback we got is that it was professional, that it was contemporary, and that it was interesting. And people wanted to learn more. Right? And that's why we were able to get 187 people to show up at that Learn event, which were good numbers.
They were great numbers. Yeah. In fact, I was impressed with how many folks kind of stuck with us throughout the event. We had over 300 people involved throughout our project. And so, I'm curious to just kind of hear from my co-PI colleagues. Like we worked so much on building community of practice. It was a whole thread on our project. Over the last 3 years. What did you see? I know you all attended the Learn event and you were engaged through this process. Did you see something that was different as relation to kind of how we had approached community practice building before?
I'll jump in and, at first we actually didn't even think about community of practice. And it was Crystal who said, we need to pursue community of practice. And I think we all know this, but it really became clear with this event is that workforce development is an end-to-end problem. You know, it engages everyone. And the way that this process with Kevin, we had everyone at all different levels. We had wannabe fellows, all mentors, all the way up to, you know, heads of library, Erik. And I think that this was really, really important. So.
Yeah,
And I would say, I was
please
gonna
go ahead,
say,
Rachel. Yes, please.
jumping on Jane's comment is that when we gathered together, all of those folks that, like you said, in the end-to-end scheme and the whole ecosystem were all in the space together.
Yes.
We didn't break people off into groups based on, you know, how they showed up in their professional lives. They were broken up into groups into how they showed up and wanted to participate in our event, which made it really like, I would say, a nice, inclusive, productive space to work, because I felt like everybody was here to listen and to learn. And we had all those different stakeholders in the community. We didn't do any type of filtering or adjustment. I mean, and that was, I remember when we had that big spreadsheet of who are we going to invite and all the different listservs. And we were like, add this one, add this one, add this one. And it was just, I feel like the conversations were so much richer because we created that equitable space.
Yeah, I remember when we started with Learn, we kind of had that one problem statement, and through just the first couple work sessions, we expanded that into like 30 some odd problems. John, I think you're getting ready to say something. Go for it.
Yeah, I was just going to add that one of the things that I appreciated and got out of it was when you talk about building community, you have to have sort of a grassroots emphasis. And a lot of these big picture issues, we try to address them from a top down because it can be difficult to, you know, it's a cat herding exercise when you're building a community, when you're getting individuals together to do things. But I thought what helped here was having a very structured process to orient people towards a method for solving problems. I don't feel we all necessarily walked away as better data scientists, but I do feel we all walked away as better problem solvers. And to me, that's way more valuable and way more important.
Yeah, I totally agree. So let's talk a little bit about work. So we had one Learn session, which was really pitching the idea, you know, to the library world. And then we had 3 work sessions that were all identical. And we ran people through, Kevin, it was like an accelerated design thinking process. It was like, they were 1-hour sessions, I think, right?
Yeah, I think we came in
I think we
just
got
under
90 minutes, yeah.
just under 90 minutes, I think, something like that. And we were coming in hot, right? Definitely. You know, the reason, getting back to that numbers, why we need to invite so many. Remember, it's a funnel. It's wider on the top, it's smaller on the bottom. The more numbers that we get at that Learn event, the more prospects that we have for engaging in the work, because not everybody's going to come, right? We have 1 hour in Learn to convince people to give us 2 more hours, right? So that programming in that 1 hour is crucial to getting people registered for those events. Now, we did 3 events because not everybody could come to one event at Thursday at 10 a.m., right? We're not everybody out of those people who want to. So we offered multiple times on alternate days. I think there was some morning and a little more afternoon session. We played the coasts against each other a little bit to make sure that people couldn't say, I couldn't find a workshop to attend. I wanted to come, but I couldn't find one that fit my schedule. Right. So, and we were even prepared to do more than that if necessary, but we did get great participation in work. We led them through our design thinking process, some of which had some experience, but everybody was open to learning more. And I think because, as John said, because we had that structured process, we shared the process, and now in work, they saw that we were doing what we told them we were going to do. We stuck to our schedules, and they saw that what's in it for them. We told them about what they would get out of it, that they would build that skill about being able to identify the right problem to solve, and they would get experience with design thinking and learn that process. I think that was enticing to your community, who by nature is I want to learn more kind of people, right? And I think that's why we were so successful in getting engagement and participation, and then ultimately that good data out of the work phase would set us up for development.
Yeah, and I was it was really cool just from my perspective to watch that one problem statement we had turn into 30 different problem statements. And just to Rachel's point a little bit earlier about how we wound up with just such a broader group of people engaged than we've initially anticipated. I think it was in like a second work session where I was in a group of people who were like in extremely rural library situations where it wasn't even that there was like two people in the library, it was a one-person library that was working half time. And so to me, that was really eye-opening and kind of approaching this problem in a different way. I'm curious, John, Jane, and Rachel, what were your takeaways from the work sessions? I know each of you were able to attend them.
I'll jump in again. I mean, I think that the enthusiasm that Kevin channeled and the fact that back to the community that everyone's voice would be heard really, really made a difference. People are excited to work on a problem. And I will say that a lot of people, including myself, coming from data science, the last thing they want to do is be in a sort of design thinking workshop. We want to all hide and just go back and work on our data. But when you present it this way, through the funnel, and that people know their voice is going to be heard, I thought this really, really made a difference. And so the methodology, I think, was really a success. You know, we can
Yeah.
talk about the other problems, but maybe I should let other folks jump in for a second.
So Rachel, what'd you take away from work?
That people are invested in this problem for many different reasons. And to your point about who showed up for those events, it led me to, you know, I think a lot of times we think about this from really a traditional professional education, top down, back to what John was saying earlier. But in those work events, I mean, people that are, I would say, post-COVID, post-Great Resignation, you know, the way we do our work has fundamentally changed, no matter what kind of library you're in. And the same old ways that we approach professional development aren't going to scale and aren't going to meet the demand. And I think that was something that, you know, and I feel like there was a universal understanding. It might not be universally articulated, but it felt like that was a common denominator across the work.
Wow, yeah. You're kind of taking me actually forward a little bit to develop where I saw the scale of solutions. You know, some of them went like high automation, you know, national outreach, and some of them went really high touch as well. So I know your comment just sparked that for me. John, any observations on the work sessions?
I got really excited from the leadership that I witnessed among colleagues across the spectrum in terms of their level of background and years in the profession and professional experience, and just the way that our colleagues who are coming into the field now or as data scientists are taking this big picture view. You know, what I learned was professional development is also about developing the profession. It doesn't happen at just an individual level, and thinking forward about where we're going as a collective. I just got really excited to see all the ideas and the excitement among the collaborators.
Yeah, all right, I'm there with you. All right, so let's talk develop. So all of these sessions led to a hybrid workshop that we had in San Diego in March. That was more of a deep dive. We actually spent about 8 hours together, maybe 7 hours, with folks who were able to be there that day. We had about 45 people in the room, as I recall, and about 15 or 20 online. And so, like through Develop, we took a combined and refined set of problem statements we identified through work and dove much more deeply. And so we actually did true prototype development. Kevin, maybe I could kick it to you to just talk a little bit more about the role of that Develop workshop.
Yeah, thanks, Erik. You know, it was really exciting to see so many people engaged, again, as everybody's kind of speaking to it. And we got great participation at different levels, which was also very exciting. And we had people who not only came to UC San Diego, but all dialed in from across the country to participate in this. So that was by design, again, providing the opportunity that if you wanted to share your voice from anywhere, that you could do so, right? So we enabled participation at every level. And then we had the program built out using the same design thinking process that our participants had in work. So now they get to apply the thing that they know again, building that skill, because now I get it. And now I have more time to do the exercises that we went through very, very quickly. We were also able to build teams from fellows, faculty, librarians, a number of different professionals that provide multiple perspectives on a single problem that generated, if I'm recalling, 16 different prototypes that we were able to test again in a very focused group of community members. So the intent of that was to, again, build on what they knew, allow them to focus on something where they had passion or interest, pair them with other people interested in the same thing, and give them enough time and support, now again in that 8-hour window, to get up to speed, run through, and really start thinking about how might we do this, and then generate those prototypes. So it was not only exciting for me to see, but the data was very interesting to see what we learned about where this should go next.
Yeah, all right. So I know John, Jane, Rachel, and I were each on a team. My team was really focused on a problem centered on advocacy. And what was amazing for me is, as our group worked, we pivoted from how should a library employee kind of think about advocacy to how we need to engage external partners and having them become our advocates. And so the prototype that we came up with, I mean, it was a very rough prototype, right? But it's centered on the idea of creating a mascot and creating a bigger brand, which to me was like a real standout idea that I don't think would have emerged through some of our other topics. I'm curious, Rachel, I'm gonna go to you first. What was your problem, or what prototype did you all come up with?
I hate to say this. I was trying to recall my problem, but I know it was something around, how do you make space? How do you make space
Right.
for play that, it's not just, it's the space to creatively think about professional development and building skills and
Right.
really kind of, getting that as part of the whole conversation. And, it's the question around time and how do you tie that to strategic planning and how do you tie that to recruitment? So, it was all, it's how do you manage all the signals to create opportunity? And that was what we were working on. We used a lot of pipe cleaners. But 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 that's, I think that's, going back to the topic of even this call and just the challenges of having this conversation. How do you streamline all those signals so that something can progress and be done? And I think it was just, how do we pull together the community in order to create a stronger signal to noise around this opportunity?
I gotcha. How about you, Jane? What do you what'd you take away from Develop? What'd you work on?
Yeah, my group actually had two people that were in library school at the time and a working professional. And what was really the focus was about skill development and professional development and how to break down those barriers. It was really eye-opening for me to hear people talk about the barriers that they felt even in the workplace. And you would think in the workplace, you really want your staff to develop skills and to develop professionally, long-term investment, and hearing those concerns. And I do remember we used Legos and built a wall, to signify barriers. And so how the discussion really was how to communicate across, not everyone's aware the barriers are not always intentional, but they exist. And so that was our focus.
I love it. And how about you, John? What'd you all work on?
The team that I worked with was focused on diversity, both in hiring and retention and promotion, but also the development of services and programs and collections that represent the diverse communities that we serve. And our prototype, for me, it was a lot of clay, a lot of Legos, but essentially it became sort of this idea of breaking down the connection points between, again, coming back to professional development, there's also a community engagement aspect to all of this. Now, who are we developing ourselves for? Who are we developing the profession for? Who do we serve and how do we serve it? And so it was this, I hate to say deconstruction, but this reevaluation of the ways in which we sit within our communities and the way in which we engage with our communities. And how can we use that reflectively and be reflective about that to build meaningful services programs.
I was going to say, just reflecting on this, I mean, the themes are, it's like communication, creating space, and then it's the community. How are we intentionally doing all these things? Because if we're not putting intention behind it, it's not just going to happen, right?
Oh, gosh, I'm there with you. Yeah. I was just thinking, Rachel, of some of the different solutions that came together, and several of them included really intentional thought thinking around stakeholder engagement. So I was really blown away with that. All right, so following Develop, we had kind of just a 1 hour present where we actually shared out the videos that we took at the end of Develop, right, showing the prototypes, and got everybody who showed up to present to give us a little bit more feedback. I'm going to go around the room and just kind of ask for some final takeaways here in a moment. But Kevin, could you talk a little bit more about present and why that's such an important part of the innovation funnel model?
Yeah, thanks, Eric. Present is really kind of the payoff for everybody, right? There was people who was little interested and want to know, hey, whatever happened with that? And then you had people who were fully engaged with the whole thing that was on a team, and it was a chance for them to share an idea that they're very excited about. We had a lot of enthusiasm in present, and I was surprised about how many of the team members showed up again after Develop to come in and help others better understand the problem they were trying to solve and the potential solution that they had seen in that. So it's one part summary, one part final lap for the team to get that, kind of hurrah lap, a victory lap, if you will. And again, for us all kind of focus at that, hey, here's everything that we did. And now what can we learn from it? And what comes next?
Thank you. I'm going to bring everybody back to the stage here and just kind of, I'm interested to hear people's key takeaways. I think I'll maybe just share my own first while I'm adding spotlight here is, as I said a little bit earlier, I was really inspired to see how many people participated. And maybe my big takeaway here was thinking about how I work more intentionally across different types of libraries. I saw, like, as new communities, particularly from the public library community came in, the quality of our kind of exploration really increased, and that was super exciting. John, let me go to you. What was one of your key takeaways or aha moments?
Coming back to sort of a theme of my comments so far, I'm not sure the next step as we think about where do we go from here. I don't know that a next step is a return to fundamentals or a return to redefinition. I think a next step is exploring in what ways have these fundamentals that we consider data science and a data science skill set and a problem-solving perspective, how are these perspectives integrating with the broader library science and information science field as our avenue for exploration, and really looking forward to seeing the fellows and the collaborators we work with becoming more the leaders and mentors in this area.
Agreed on that point. We had 12 fellows and mentors who showed up, who were kind of our coordinators for this project. It was so cool watching them kind of step into that leadership role. All right, Rachel, how about you? What was one of your key takeaways?
It's the people who showed up, I would say the passion and the investment. I mean, I want to +1 what John said, because that was a big one for me, but it's just, it's valuing and honoring all the people that brought their effort to the table, and that leadership, and trying, it's I would say a more seasoned library professional watching the new voices come into the conversation, and the passion and the contribution that wants to be there. But at the same time, it's kind of a self-reflection. What can I do from the space where I'm at to lead or influence or be intentional around these particular things? And so I have my own homework to do. But no, I said overall, it was just inspiring to see the contribution.
Yeah, agreed. Kevin, I know working with libraries closely was maybe this was a new one for you. What was your takeaway from all this?
It was, I have not spent so much time with librarians, probably since grade school. But I got to tell you, the thing that I'll +1 on is the passion that I hear everybody speaking about. The knowledge and experience supplemented the passion that I saw people apply to this at every level. And I just think that speaks volumes to the people involved in your community and their commitment to making things better. So I would welcome an opportunity to collaborate with the LIS professionals again, and look forward to exploring next steps on our effort here.
Yeah, agreed. All right, and Jane, how about you?
So I like Rachel, I think I have some homework to do too, but Just back to leading. Leading was a success, a huge success. And we have fellows who became mentors. Crystal herself was a fellow and became a community lead. You know, we have fellows who ended up being on the advisory board. And it just, what I'd like to do, and I need to do, is take the leading model and then take Kevin's model and look at what is it that we came, you know, what are these links? And why leading was a huge success, I mean, I'd give it a 99.999%, and we're still hearing from fellows. Sure, there are things we learned that some fellows did have some challenges in workplace, you know, obstacles and things that we had to work through, and we worked through all of those. And so what can we learn that, I hate to say this word, template or model that, you know, could be used in the next kind of project for other people. And I've already heard from folks working on an AI project, and since the whole leading project is out there, the whole grant proposal, they said how much it helped them formulate their proposal. And so now integrating what we've done with what we've learned from Kevin, I think could really shape and shift the way we go about back to this professional development and development of skills. So we don't keep doing the same old, same old.
Yeah.
So,
And I think that it's a great thing to just share a little bit more about as we wrap up here. For leading, we're really focused on sustainability planning. And so I know, John, you're leading a group that's focused on publishing the curriculum. You know, the work here with DATALIS that I've been helping lead is helping us think about like what future pathways exist. Jane, do you want to share a little bit more about the work we're doing to wrap up leading?
yeah, so we have different task force, and you mentioned the curriculum archiving one, and this was sustainability and community development. We also have a group, a subgroup that is very much in touch with all the fellows about publication opportunities, because many of our fellows still continue to work with their mentors or fellows across you know, different projects in different years. So continue to share their work, publish their results, publish their data. And then we have another internal task force that is looking to create sort of a network analysis to understand how the community grew and expanded. So these are the kind of things we're working on as we wrap up. And, you know, while there's not a leading 3.0 or something, there are many fellows out there who are continuing leading like activities. So,
Yeah,
and
looking
there may
forward to seeing
be,
where
who
all this
knows?
goes. Yeah. All right. Well, many thanks. Thanks, Rachel, John, Jane, and Kevin. It's really been a pleasure talking with all of you today, and we'll look forward to seeing what comes next.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I-
And I want to say thank you to Kevin for the opportunity to explore in this creative way. So, and Erik for bringing Kevin in.
There you go.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
I really
Thanks,
appreciated
everybody.
my time with everybody.
All right. Well done. All right. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.